Welcome to the Purpose Chasers podcast, where adversity meets ambition and setbacks become setups for something greater. I'm your host, Mark Crandall. After walking away from a $5.1 million construction sale, enduring loss, betrayal, a season of darkness, and a pile of financial devastation, I came back to the one thing I can't shake, helping people live on purpose. This podcast isn't about chasing dollars, it's about chasing calling. Every week, we shine light on creators, entrepreneurs, and artists who refuse to quit. People who kept moving forward when life told them to sit down. If you've ever been knocked down, counted out, or told no, you're in the right place. Because here, we turn pain into power and purpose into impact. Let's dive into this week's episode. Purpose Chasers, this is an intro to episode 137, in which I bring on my longtime dear friend, Mr. Bud Heaton, to interview him on how he came to chasing purpose. And I was blown away to find out and to really draw together how tied in Bud's family and his wife's goals are to what he has built and created. Bud has a ridiculous amount of success online. He is the greatest internet marketer that I know. He has several ClickFunnels awards, multiple Go High Level awards. Please welcome my dear friend Bud Heaton as he begins this episode by sharing how we met in Tennessee at Funnel Hacker Live.
And so walk in and I sit down and I'm just chilling, just kind of hanging out. It's the pre-event, so they got music bumping and, people are grabbing their seats and all that stuff. And I turn around and I see this sweatshirt is this awesome white text sweatshirt that just said Purpose Chasers across the chest. And I thought, that's freaking sick. I love that. I love that idea. And then I just kind of sat on it for a second. And finally I was like, I'm at a networking event. I should probably go say, hey, that's pretpretty cool. And I walked over and I was like, dude, I love your sweatshirt. That's the coolest thing.
You came up to me. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And I was like, yeah. And I just gave you props for your sweatshirt and the branding and all the stuff. And, we got acquainted and talked for like 2 minutes. And then I went and sat back down. And then like 3 minutes later, you walked over and you're like, dude, come sit with me. You're by yourself? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, all right, cool. And dude, another 5 minutes later and you go, what are you doing here? Like, why are you even here? And I was like, I actually don't know. And and you were like, well, dude, like, let's figure it out, and that started the conversation and transformed everything. Cause now I wasn't just going to the event because it was this hyped up event that everybody was talking about, that, I was a, ClickFunnels fanboy and still love ClickFunnels to today. I'm, friends with Russell and do all this stuff. But
he's one of the greatest greatest marketers ever to be. I mean, I wasn't crapping on ClickFunnels. I still respect Russell. I'm just
hands down. Yeah, hands down. I was just at the Inner Circle event on Monday and Tuesday, and so it was fun, right? It was great. And so but like when I first started going, and that was I believe that was my first funnel hacking live in 2018 or 2019 probably. But yeah, from that, everything shifted to now I had intention and purpose behind all my activity. And from there, my income literally like quadrupled. Like my life totally changed,
You would say, I want to stay here for a second because that's interesting to me. You would say the catapulting or the trajectory takeoff, if you will, for you was this moment of, all right, now I just need to plan what I want to do and then go do it. You make it sound so
you say
simple,
it like that,
Bud.
It sounds really dumb, but kind of, yeah.
Been stuck in my head all week. I didn't retain a lot from grad school, but I had she ran Granite United Way. She was one of the heads of Granite United Way, and she was a social worker, and she oversaw my internship, and she would say every time I saw her, plan the work the plan, plan the work the plan, plan the work the plan. And that's what I'm reminded of when you say that. It's like, it's as simple as plan the work the plan.
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, totally. Yeah, we actually got on a coaching call, and he challenged me to go just have a conversation with my wife that got us in alignment, and that really shifted a lot of things too, you know. So yeah, dude, like yeah, there's a lot of good that came from a lot of good that came from that moment. So
I remember, obviously inside of that room, the ClickFunnels room is a massive event, right? Like there's product offers, and there was an opportunity to join a community. And I would say one of the things that I've really been thinking about and giving a lot of perspective to is, I went and took a 5 year layover, almost 5 year layover in construction, right? Like running a roofing and solar company and building an electrical company and da 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 da. I stopped purpose chasers. I stopped all of my own work, like all of what I've been called to do to go do what somebody else has been called to do. And then, I saw the flash in the pan, the money, and I chased it. And you've been a part of this journey the entire time. And
yeah.
then, to get to a point where like I didn't see an exit to get back to chasing my purpose, to know you've stayed on the entire time. You've
Mm.
stayed on path. You've stayed in that community. And as you talked about, you were just at the Inner Circle event. You've stayed really, really connected and stayed aligned with what you just said, planning the work and working the plan. And as a result of fast track I mean, to where you are now, Bud. And I know I really want to highlight some of how tied into your family you are. You really lock your time down pretty heavily, as busy as you are with the success that you've had. So can you walk the audience through, and he just walked me through as well, how we initially met. And you got to think I don't know, there's at least 1,000 people at that event.
Oh, that was a 4,000 person event. Yeah.
4,000? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was a big
It was
event.
massive. Yeah, it was massive.
Only
Yeah, I mean,
relationship I maintained. I wouldn't say that. Yeah, I would say that. Like on a daily, weekly basis, like to
yeah,
my family, I know yours to some degree.
yeah, yeah. Well, a couple things that kind of came from, you know, obviously we met and, you know, had those conversations. A couple things that came from that was working in alignment with my wife, right? In trying to stay in alignment with who she is and what she wants and all of those things, as well as what I want, what I want to do and who I am, and putting those things side by side so that we worked forward together, right? So, and there's times where I go way off course, and thankfully I'm married to a great woman that pulls me right back and keeps me on that path, you know. And and so you know, like I said, it was from setting those intentions that I started to push the envelope a little bit further with what I could do in my career, with what I could do in the various things that I had going on. And by doing that, I've got, you can see behind me here, like just below there, there's a ClickFunnels 10X award. There's one on the wall there and two more right there, you know. So like from that moment, I just started stepping on the gas, and we
Can you
have gone
explain what
out.
those are for people listening? He's
Yeah,
got big awards. They're for revenue generated. Can you
yeah.
share?
So basically, when you cross $1 million generated from a funnel, you can win one of those awards. Yeah, I've got a couple of them, but yeah, you can kind of see what they look like right there, right? So, it
They've seen
became,
them
you
on the
know,
internet for sure, whether
yeah.
they
I
knew
mean, you've seen them.
what they were looking at or not.
They became a majorly desired thing in the internet marketing world, right? And and so, you know, we've generated that money, generated that revenue. You know, not all of that's profit, but like, you know, we've done more than what a lot of people have been able to accomplish, right? I've got one that's for $10 million, you know, and I've got another one coming here shortly. And so anyway, my point is like from this one conversation of saying, hey, what's my purpose? Why am I even here? And then having that same conversation with my wife is like, what's your purpose? What do you want to achieve? You know, it became clear what she wanted, and I freaking pushed on the gas to get to that level and get to that point. And bam, with those two things in place, her purpose, my purpose aligned moving forward together. I was able to not only cultivate and develop my relationship with my wife. We now have three beautiful daughters. Um, and we've got, you know, a few thriving businesses that are working really well. Right now we're year over year 26% growth, revenue wise. So it's just continuing to grow, continuing to do that. So, the concept that attracted me to Mark in the first place was purpose chasers, right? I love this concept of like, I need to have purpose and intention. I was a competitor for many, many years, in the shotgun shooting world. And so intentionality was something that I had learned before, but I had only applied it in the myopic world of my competition. I didn't think, oh, I should probably apply it to my relationships and my business and my this and that and the other. Like I was just like, I was just kind of like going through the motions, if you will, and that one conversation, and it was kind of funny. I remember when Mark asked me that question, "What are you even doing here?" It wasn't like, "What are you doing here, bud?" It wasn't like this mysterious thing. It was kind of like, "What are you doing here, dude?"
What?
It was like so point blank in the tonality that I was like so caught off guard by it. And I was just like, I don't even know how to answer this question. Like, I just remember being like deer in the headlights in that moment, And so, which I'm so grateful for now because it really forced me to like actually look at who I was, my life, and what was going on. And, from there, we just, like I said, we stepped on the gas and made it all happen. So,
You stepped on the gas, but from my perspective of watching you in this journey, you've been a slow and steady wins the race. I've had a lot of opportunity. I've won big, I've lost big. I've seen you stable and maintain the similar pace with the similar workload, only adding on what you know you can take on and even adding on stuff that you still haven't followed up with me on. I'm just kidding.
I do have some of those. I do have some of
I'm
those.
kidding. Um, can you share some perspective, some tools, insight on what it looks like to stay the course?
Yeah.
Do you believe it was the aspect of incorporating your wife's purpose in with yours that made it more real, so you had to stay the path,
Yeah.
or?
Yeah. Part of what my wife wanted was consistency and steadiness. Um, her father lost his house in 2008. He was a real estate auditor. And in that journey, she was a teenager at the time when that happened, right? And so she did not have the same experience of chasing entrepreneurship like I did. My dad was a successful photographer. The only reason his business failed wasn't because of him. He's the best photographer in the state of Utah. Um, my mom got sick, and so the relationship factor with all the clients kind of went away. And so my dad decided to become a caretaker, So like that was my version of entrepreneurship wasn't my wife's version, So I had seen what it's like to make $1 million a year and what that lifestyle looks like. And okay, I'm going to go chase after that. That's what I want. But in order to do that, you have to take bigger jumps than I was actually taking. So then when I aligned with my wife and what she was looking for, she wanted something steady and consistent. And so I had to figure out how to make the best of both worlds happen so that she was supported and I could still pursue my dreams. And we've kind of figured out the right balance for that for us. And I think everybody has to kind of go through that same model of like, all right, we're in this together. How do we make this work together? What's the win-win scenario that works for you and works for me, with your personality, with my personality, with the way that you approach things, with the way that I approach things, and then we step on the gas, right? I just put a consistent cruise control with an increasing ratio of expansion over time. Um, and so coming back to this concept of like high performance, one of my favorite events that I went to. I've only been to a couple of them, but it was High Performance Academy with Brendon Burchard. And one of the concepts that he shares in that event, and he shares this online too, but he talks about high performance is a lot of times what we see and perceive as high performance is we step on the gas and we have this major peak, right? But then, and that's what we see as high performance. That's a high performer, right? But what ends up happening is this high performer hits this peak and they sustain it for a little while, and then they kind of eventually come back down to some plateau that is, either not high performance or subpar to what they could be doing or, whatever. And Brendan's philosophy is, let's find the level of high performance that we can maintain for a long period of time, because we will win the race slow and steady, as you know, as you put it, Mark. Is And so I attach myself to that because I think that fit with what my wife was looking for, with my ability to go and take risks and do the things that I needed to do, but also have something steady and consistent in the workload that allowed me to venture into the dangerous world in her perception, and but still have something that was solid and grounded.
Mm. Thank you for that. That was a really, really, really compounded answer. I did not expect that, but it was,
Sometimes on podcasts it pays to be long-winded because you can tell really good stories.
yeah, yeah, for sure. And for the sake of time of this interview and getting to what it is I believe we've been called to talk about, I would like to ask you this question. You're one of the best marketers I know, if not the greatest marketer that I know. One of the best branding experts I've ever experienced, and has sharpened me as I'm in my 3.0 comeback to make sure that my stuff is on point. As you can see, I've been really cleaning my Instagram and getting ready for this grind I'm about to do. Purpose Chasers audience has historically been full of creators and coaches and authors and speakers and holistic healers that want to get their name out there and really fulfill on what they've been called to do. One of the hardest things to do is to market myself online. I'm so good at doing just crazy marketing for other people. When it comes to selling myself online, which I hate that term because you really don't have to do that if you know what you're doing, I'm horrible at it. Bud, you're really, really good at it. Can you share the strategies and or tactics that you implement to make sure that you're highlighting yourself in the same regard that you are the clients that you work with?
Yeah. So a lot of times when it comes to this marketing thing, right, it's really easy, especially like as a marketer, to step into the role of marketer and promote somebody else's stuff. And the reason for that is actually deeper than just the marketing itself. It's actually the psychology of what you are going through as an individual, right? So if you have, I call this the mastery mind. If you do not have mastery over yourself, meaning you don't truly believe in yourself, you don't truly believe you have mastery at what you do, this it'll show up in your results. Um, and so what that means and what that kind of starts to look like from a marketing perspective is you sometimes self-sabotage, or you put something out there, but you're like subconsciously like, this isn't going to work, or, whatever. Right. And um, so then we start to become self-critical of, man, this isn't good, or I don't like this, or, we pull down what actually is there. And the reality is, if we are judging our own work, which we will always judge our own work with a higher level of degree than pretty much anybody else ever will. What you're doing is you're isolating your business, your brand, into one opinion. And it's the only opinion that actually doesn't matter is yours, right? The actual opinion that matters is over here, and it's your customers and your clients and the audience and the people that you're trying to serve. They're the ones that's going to tell you whether it's good or bad or not, really. That, you know what I mean? And so the pathway to marketing yourself online is, one, understanding your who with a depth that nobody else can beat. And then number two, creating things for that who that that will bring them to you and develop that relationship with you. When you nail this is what it looks like on the street. You're walking through the airport, you're walking through, some busy street, whatever. Somebody stops you and says, "Hey, I saw your video online. And can I get a picture with you?" That's how you know you've developed a relationship to the level that needs to be had online, right? One of the guys I publish, we go to like company events and industry events, and it literally, you can't go down the hallway. We have to like sneak around in places to not be seen so that we can actually get to where we're trying to go. Otherwise, we're stopped every 10 feet to get a picture with this guy because he's got, a couple 100,000 subscribers on YouTube, and he's an industry icon, like all those kinds of things. and we've helped develop that, right? And so the only way that we've developed that is creating stuff for the people that need it created, if that makes sense.
Yes, it makes perfect sense. Bud, thank you so much for that. I'm grateful for our relationship. I'm grateful to really truly know the story and to hear like how, because I know your family is very, very, very close to you, but to know how tied into, I guess, how far off the chain you're allowed to get. That makes it very, very clear, more clear to me on how many no's you've given me throughout the years as I've tried to venture with you on everything and anything.
You're not the only person I say no to. I say no to a lot of things because, yeah, when you say no to something, yeah. Anyway,
You leave opportunity for greater, and or what I've found is the energy that would get put elsewhere if applied to one place would send me even further.
yeah.
But for those purpose chasers that are out there stuck right now, that have gotten off their feet and then fallen flat, what message would you give them to get back on the path and get back on the to just get back on getting some wins and some progress in their life, in their business?
Yeah. It's easy to talk about success and I can point to all my accolades and all the stuff that I've got here, but like that's a 12-year journey. I started marketing in 2013. Started using ClickFunnels in 2014, and it wasn't until 2022 that I got my first award. Right. So I didn't apply for the awards. I was just quietly working on stuff for a long, long time. And then when I applied, I realized I could get that award right there and that award right there. And I got 2 awards in one go, right? Because we had done over $10 million, and it's actually like closer to $60 million, but I couldn't track it all through a funnel. And so I only got credit for the 10, And so my point in sharing that is the journey as you're trying to make it happen is a quiet one, and it should be, because like if you're trying to compare yourself to Tony Robbins or Gary Vee or name a person on YouTube that's got a big following and they've got it all, so to speak, right? It came from a lot of quiet nights and long weekends and stuff just working behind the scenes, and so if you're feeling defeated, if you're feeling beat down, if you're feeling like you're not making the progress you want to make, which I often feel, just keep going. Just keep stepping on the gas as best you can, and pivot where you need to, steer a different direction as you need to, listen to good coaches and mentors, people around you that love you and care for you. And also make sure you're listening to your audience, right? If you're not listening to your audience, you're not going to adapt the business to what needs to be created. So that's what I would say.
Thanks for tuning in to the Purpose Chasers podcast. If today's episode hit home, don't just listen, engage. Follow me on Spotify, drop a review, and join the conversation over on YouTube at The Purpose Chasers or on Instagram at Organic Nerd Word. This is more than a podcast, it's a movement. And if you're here, you're already part of it. Remember, no amount of darkness can keep someone who's been called. So keep chasing, keep building, and keep standing in your purpose. I'm Mark Crandall, signing off until next time. Let's get it.